All right, Texas fans, 41st Acre here with a post-game reaction for the second round of the playoffs for the Texas Longhorns. Brett, Justin, Ben here. Texas escapes 39-31. This game was a lot closer than I think anybody thought it would be. Texas was favored by double digits, and they were up, pretty well 17-3 at one point, and just slowly let Arizona State come back in the game. We've seen this before from Texas. They kind of just fail to finish teams when they have them down. So we'll get into some initial thoughts and talk about some more of that as we go. But yeah, I think it was obvious Texas didn't play their best game. Still happy to get away with a win. Live to play another week, but we definitely expected better from this team, and they'll need to play better if they need to win next week. Justin, initial thoughts, then we'll go to Brett.
Yeah, no, I mean that that game had everybody's heart rate going a little bit faster than I think we wanted it to. Jumping up, like you said, 14-3, 17-3, whatever it was, around about halftime, and then even up 16 points halfway through the fourth quarter. You felt pretty damn good about it. It got to be way too close of a game, obviously going to double overtime. It was exciting at least, and Texas came out on top, so you got to love that. It was one of those wins where you get to come back home and sure you won, but you don't feel good about it. So I'm sure the coaching staff had a great time just absolutely ripping into a bunch of those guys for a lot of bad things, some good things as well, right, which we're going to talk about. But, man, at the end of the day, a win's a win. It's win in advance. You can win by 1 point or win by 20 points, whatever, 30, 40 points. Like, you win, you get another chance. So, I mean, we just watched, Georgia lose, right? I mean, in fact, I think every team that had a bye lost, right? That's something interesting we could talk about too. So the fact that Texas is moving on, I think, is the most important part. Was it pretty? No, but man, they pulled it out. They made the plays when they had to, like what Sark said.
Yeah, every conference champion is out of the playoff at this point in time.
Well,
there are no conference champions remaining. So I'm going to get into a conversation about changing the way that who gets the buys and who gets which matchups but I am physically, emotionally, mentally exhausted from that game. That game aged me several years. It's like it was jubilation at the beginning. We got our first special teams touchdown of the year. So much excitement. The defense is flying to the ball. Scadaboo's doing nothing. Levitt's having a scramble just to buy some time. And then, we get to the second half and it's just a completely different ball game. It's like our defense is tired because of, multiple things, but our defense is tired. Scadaboo turns into a monster and he's getting injected with the same stuff they gave to Wolverine in that last X-Men movie to keep him going. It was unbelievable. And then just the absolute meltdown in the final few minutes of the fourth quarter, from Quinn's interception to having two opportunities to take a field goal to take the lead and pretty much end the game with Bert Auburn, to going to overtime and getting into a 4th and 13 is just absolutely it was crushing. And I was already starting to mentally prepare my heart for the disappointment that was going to be the end of that game. And as Marie would tell me, guarding my heart. So it was tough. I was very excited that we got the win when that we didn't necessarily deserve, but we got anyways. There's so much though to talk about on this one. I am excited to talk about these things, get these things off my chest, because I didn't sleep very good last night.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Ben, I know you're going to lead us here. Do we want to? Just thinking, do we want to break it up into talk about first half, second half, overtimes, or do we want to talk about it in subjects?
Yeah, let's start with the first half and just and back to the point we talked about on the show. I didn't want Texas to play in the conference championship, and I thought winning it, you don't need to win it. You're in the playoff. I think I don't know. We would have had a much more difficult path had we won that game. Maybe on the outside looking in now. So it'd be interesting to see how the committee changes that. But let's go first half. Man, what a great starting script by Sark. I think Sark probably was one of the best at creating an opening game script and 2 plays and a touchdown. The defense let up a field goal. It was a good drive by Arizona State. They kind of just worked their way down the field. I think did we help them with penalties on that first drive? That was a long time ago by now. But
that was
you know,
they punted and we ran into
yeah,
them.
Yeah,
okay.
running to the
So
kicker.
we'll get into special teams later, but Texas was negative on special teams performance this game. But yeah, okay. First series of the game for Arizona State. Penalty running into the kicker gives them a first down, extends a drive. They get 3 points. They opened it up with points. I think that's what you want to do as a team. Texas responds 2 plays in the end zone, and then quick punt return touchdown, quickly up 14-3, and then we get a field goal late in the second quarter. So really, one good offensive drive by Texas in the first half, but being up 17-3 and not playing your best, had to feel pretty good about the way this game was going in the first half.
Yeah.
Brett or Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I was just add on to that, and your defense is just dominating. And when your defense is dominating like that, a 17-3 lead feels like a huge lead. In shootouts, obviously, it doesn't. Just a couple possessions, but your defense is absolutely flying to the ball. It's gang tackling on Scadaboo. He's not doing anything. He's frustrated. He's slamming his helmet on the sidelines. So all those things considered, it looks like a dominant first half. The one thing you have to consider, though, is the time of possession. It's actually, I was talking to my uncle about it in the first half. I was like, we score on 2 plays in our first series. They're up 3-0. We we run an RPO. Matthew Golden hits the slant. We dump it off to him. He runs 60 yards down the field to near the 20-yard line. Next play is that Ezekiel wheel route with DeAndre Moore faking the blocks and goes to the corner of the end zone. Quinn hits him with a perfect ball, touchdown. Okay, 2 plays. Stop them on the next drive. I think maybe they got a first down or 2. And then we immediately get the punt return for a touchdown. The one thing that I noticed, though, is you get through that period where we're up 14-3, and they have already doubled the amount of time of our time of possession and doubled the amount of offensive snaps. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, if there's one downside to this, it's our defense has been on the field a lot. And that actually came back to bite us in the second half, which we'll talk about. But that was the one excuse me, that was the one negative part of the first half in my eyes, is we did not have good time of possession, and our defense played a lot of snaps.
Yeah. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm looking at the drive chart right here. If I'm counting it right, Texas only had 5 plays in the entire first half. I'm sorry, the entire first quarter. And I would say ASU had somewhere between 15 and 20. So, yeah, time of possession was huge. Luckily, we got a lot of depth on defense, and obviously they came out and were able to keep fighting and, keep making the stops when they needed to. Who knows? I mean, maybe, if ASU goes for a couple more field goals on some of those ones where we stopped them on downs or makes the one field goal versus us blocking it, I mean, they might win that thing in regulation. But that first half was jubilation, like you said, when we started, right? You're like, hell yeah, like 2 plays, 41 seconds, touchdown, let's go. And then punt return for a touchdown. Like, that's what we've been wanting to see. Yeah. And then by that point, you get into literally you're 15 minutes into the game at that point, and we get 3 plays more in the first quarter. And you could see okay, Arizona State made a quick adjustment, whatever the case it is, but they're also scrappy. Like we said, that they played with a lot of effort, and that effort absolutely showed. We got, I don't think lucky, but we beat them on 2 big plays, and that was a big deal in the first quarter. But after that, it was a grind for another quarter and a half before we could really do much. So first half was weird. I love the way the defense played. I loved some of the special teams, but defense, I think, was just out there too much. I mean, they played a ton of snaps on defense in that first half, and I think it showed later in the game as they just slowly started getting worn down.
Well, another thing to add on that too is just the amount of effort on every single play we had to make on defense. Yep. Tackling Scadabo, I mean, obviously that guy's he's a reincarnation of Mike Allstott.
Yeah.
But
Peyton Hillis, Marshawn Lynch.
yeah, I mean, but the other thing I'm thinking about is Sam Levitt. Like, how many times did he drop back in the pocket and we had to run him back and forth across the field?
Yep.
I mean, that's got to be exhausting. It's not a traditional, like, hey, third down, he's going to drop back and we're going to either get pressure on him, he's going to throw it. It's like he's going to run our guys 60 yards. They might not gain any yards, but our guy's going to run another 60 yards trying to track him down.
Yeah, exhausting. He was like Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, to the amount of effort it took to tackle Scadaboo, it was great. Like, we didn't get him going. I mean, we talked about it beforehand. Y'all saw how many missed tackles we had in the backfield. He was amazing at keeping his balance. I mean, hats off. That dude is a baller. I wish he played for Texas.
No, Bijan level balance.
Yes, absolutely. Like, you hit him, you hit him again, maybe, and then it's like the third or fourth guy that really is what's needed to take him down.
Yeah.
So the heart that the defense played with, especially in the first half, but then at the end of the game, to just do everything they could to stop that guy was ridiculous. And on top of that, like you said, the way that Levitt just ran around, like, the dude's a baller. That team is going to be good next year again as well. They won't have Scadaboo. They'll probably have Jordan Tyson back, which would be really good for their offense. But, I mean, just in general, the heart that team played with, the way that Sam Levitt runs around like that, I mean, that is tiring for any defense, much less one of the top defenses in the country. So I get when we didn't play good complementary ball, which we've talked about trying to do, that defense is going to struggle. Hopefully 98 plays or 96 plays, whatever it was that they played, doesn't hurt them going into the next game too badly. But, man, get those boys in the ice bath.
Yeah, I think we might have. How many fourth downs did we stop them on in the first half? At least one.
Two.
Yeah. So, again, I think defense played well in the first half.
For sure.
Halftime adjustments. We've talked about this all year long. It seems like Texas makes no adjustments, and the other teams do everything they can to outwit what Texas was doing in the first half. First play of the second half, Quinn Ewers sacked for 8 yards. Like, this has been a problem in all of the games Texas struggles, like negative yardage on first down. And then the next, so we get a turnover on downs, and then a safety. You can't run the ball like that, and we'll get into the running game in a little bit. But running back fumbles. Looks like he wasn't getting down the end zone anyway. Good on Quinn, I guess, for jumping on it, so it wasn't a touchdown. But that's how you start the second half, and I'm pretty sure that's how you end the. I'm pretty sure Texas only has those 4 plays in the third quarter. Actually, or maybe the touchdown drive started in the third quarter. But you had, I think, again, 5 plays in the third quarter, just like the first quarter. Like, offense is not even on the field.
Yeah. Also, shout out to, who's that, Shakari Simmons? Coming back in, or Shamari Simmons, and immediately making an impact. Dude.
we talked about him, too, being out for the first half. Yeah,
oh, man.
That guy's a baller.
That was awesome. Yeah. Well done. I mean, they played with a ton of heart. Again, hats off, man. Like, I was super impressed for sure, just throughout the whole game. Not just here and there. It was the whole game. Halftime adjustments, though. The third quarter, I don't know what it is. I don't know if they go in or they're in the locker room, they come out of it and they say, you know what? Everything's working great. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. And I don't know how they could have possibly said that after the first half performance. Like, it wasn't world beater. He had 2 good plays, right?
Yep.
So I'm not sure what they go in and say to each other. And if they just go to bed, maybe they're posting on Instagram. I don't know. Colin Simmons. I mean, I think that they've got to. It's almost like they need to have 2 full-blown scripts, and no matter what, they run the first one to start the first half, they run the second one to start the second half, because they're adjustments that they're trying to make for whatever reason, and they need to be totally independent of each other. It doesn't matter what works in the first half. You stick with the second half script, and you just try it. Because when Sark tries to overthink, sometimes I don't know if he's making the right end game adjustments and calls on a play-to-play basis. He has his moments where he gets on a good drive, but as long as we don't shoot ourselves in the foot with false starts or holding or whatever. But sometimes it's like, dude, if the players don't make unbelievable plays, then I don't know if that's the right play call. Like sometimes I think the players are lifting Sark up. Sark does his job, don't get me wrong, but I do think a lot of it right now is the players having to just kind of take it upon themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is, the chicken or the egg. Is it Sark's play calling, or is it just lack of execution,
Right.
or just mental focus on the with penalties and stuff like that? One thing I noticed about the game, though, I mean, yeah, halftime adjustments. I was getting myself ready for the third quarter, mentally preparing. I knew, easiest bet in Las Vegas is bet Texas to lose the third quarter. It pays. I don't know how many games we've played this year now. 14. I think it's paid. I think it's paid in basically every single one of them, every single one of our conference games except maybe Florida. So, halftime adjustments though, like what did Arizona State do in the first half? Arizona State was trying to mix in a healthy amount of passing along with Cam Scadaboo. That's when we saw the most out of Sam Levitt trying to make plays. They couldn't do it, right? It seemed like our defensive backs, even as much time as Sam Levitt was able to create, our defensive back stayed sticky, and he either couldn't make the throw or we were right in the pass lanes and able to maintain that good coverage. And so what does Arizona State do in the second half? They run the damn ball. They made an adjustment. They said, hey, okay, we're going to give the ball to our best player, and you're going to have to go beat him now. Because what we tried to do in the first half, trying to create this offense that's not really part of our DNA, it wasn't working. So they adjusted. All right. For whatever reason, this is probably the thing I'm most frustrated with Sark. And it doesn't matter if it's execution or play calling. When we can't establish a run game, we seem so stubborn that we stick to it throughout. Right? Yep. The pass game was open. I thought, we exposed that on the first offensive play of the game on the RPO, right? They are all in on the run. So that's just going to leave our 5-star wide receivers one-on-one with their not as athletic defensive backs. Let's take advantage of that. Let's just keep going at them until they put another safety back there or put a true nickel back in there to where we can feel like we can run the ball. That adjustment was never made, and we stayed so stubborn trying to run the ball. I mean, outside zone, inside zone, nothing worked. They were sold out for it, and they were beating us. So I don't care if it's execution. I don't care if it's play calling. It's just like the stubbornness to continue to do that. Beat them at what they're giving you. And Quinn's talented enough, and we have the talent in Gunnar Helm and Matthew Golden and Ryan Wingo had big splash plays. Like, why not just keep carving them up there? Why not run the score up to 52? Because you could have done that against that pass offense. Instead, we'd run the ball on first down every single time, and we put us in a predictable 2nd and 12, and now we're playing behind the sticks. And it's almost impossible at that point in time because you can just drop people back. So that was the big thing I noticed is Arizona State adjusted. They went to the run game. We tried our run game, didn't work. We stuck with the run game, continued to not work. When did we finally adjust? Overtime. We started throwing the ball, and it worked.
Yeah, I don't think we ran it one time in overtime.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the fourth. Okay. Yeah. Towards the end of the fourth and overtime.
There was a run for no gain on 2nd and 10 in the first overtime. But dude, to your point real quick, Brett, Matthew Golden was unguardable this game. I mean, he had 10 targets, 7 catches, 150 yards, and a touchdown. Why not 15 targets? 13 catches, 200 yards.
No.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and same with Gunnar Helm, right? What, he only have 5 targets?
He didn't have a catch till the fourth quarter, I think.
Right.
So,
yeah, but he was an absolute mismatch, and I don't know. I mean, it's like even if the run game is struggling, they keep Helm in to be an extra blocker.
Yep.
And then the run game still sucks, and you're just wasting Gunnar Helm. I know he's a pretty damn good blocker, obviously, but if you can't do it with the 5 you've got, and then you can't do it with the 6 you've got, guess what, boys? You can't do it. Either put a true offensive lineman in there, right, and run 2 receivers, or stop. Just start passing the damn ball. Because I'll tell you what, if Quinn plays like he did to the end of the fourth quarter and overtime, if he can play like that for half the game, it's over. If he can play like that for half the game against Ohio State, which I know we'll talk about in the future, like totally different ball game. Beating your head against the run game, I know it's what Sark wants to do, and I'm in it. I know you got to be able to run the ball, but you have to run when it makes sense. And when it doesn't make sense, you're just relying on your defense to get you out of a bad spot. They've done an amazing job at it all year, right? But 98 plays, like they're going to start breaking. You got to get those boys some more rest. So I know we got 9-10 days, whatever it is, for the next game. They'll get in the ice bath. They'll be fine. But, dude, complimentary ball. If you can't run the ball, then stop trying to run the ball.
Yeah. That's all we're asking for, Sark. Come on, hear us.
I know he listens. I mean, what about more screenplays? Like, that's an extension of the
what about
run
more
game.
jet sweeps? Like, what about just like changing it up? The one jet sweep we had, Ryan Wingo got a first down on. Like,
right. And what is so unbelievable is just how bad our offensive line is at run blocking against either similar talent or similar effort.
Yeah.
Like, man, I still can't believe they're a Joe Moore Award finalist for some of the play that we've seen out of them. So inconsistent the past month.
One of the stats they threw up during the game was Blue and Wisner led the SEC in running back catches. Like like both of them, 1 and 2 on the list.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like, okay, the stats look pretty. I mean, Wisner had 4 catches for 40 yards. That's pretty good. 10 yards a catch. Blue had 1 for 11. I think he was injured. He didn't run the ball a whole lot.
He fumbled that ball.
He fumbled, and they were like, "Get him out."
Yeah. So he had 5 touches in the game for 15 yards. So 3 yards. Yeah, 3 yards a touch. Not very productive for Blue. After what a great game he had against Clemson. But I think we were all surprised by the way Texas ran the ball against Clemson, and then their inability to run against Arizona State. I think that surprised everybody. I think that's really what made this game as close as it was, because I think Texas can do so many different things off of Sark's creative scheme when they're able to run the ball. And I think that's when the misdirection really works. Play action, the RPO lanes really open up. But 30 pass attempts, 30 rush attempts, and I guess we kind of segue into the run game. So let's just stick on this and finalize our run game conversation.
Yeah.
1.8 yards per rush on average, 30 attempts, 53 yards total. Hey, anybody prop bet for Ewers to have a rushing touchdown? I certainly didn't. Yeah.
It would have been nice. It would have been a nice payout right there. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, as you're talking about this, I'm trying to decide why the run game has been what it has. Okay, Georgia, horrible. Clemson, amazing. ASU, horrible. And even obviously against A&M before that, pretty good, right?
I think A&M has a fantastic rush defense. I mean, look what they did to Notre Dame. They bottled up that entire Notre Dame is a running offense. Like, they bottled them up for the entire game. Like, I think they had a great one. So I can't figure this one out either.
So is it that teams look at what did Texas – because if you look, we've just gone up and down, back and forth, right? Is it that teams look at what we did the week before and then they're like, they're doing this really well right now, we have to kind of hyper-focus on it, right? Because they know that theoretically Texas should and could be able to do either one of them. They're relatively balanced if you look at the whole season, right? Like, they've got good attacks on both ends. So do they do that? So like next week, should we expect a good run game against Ohio State? Because they're going to go, we got the run game. Because it's kind of human nature to go, they ran for 60 yards against Arizona State. We can handle the run game. The players, not just the coach, I'm talking about the players themselves are going to say that, right? And then the Texas offensive line is going to go, we got embarrassed. We have to go out and show them who's boss. You know what I mean? So you got two crossing paths there of like, we looked bad, we got to look better. Like, where is this consistency?
Well,
right?
I think part of it is the athletes on the defensive side of the ball. Like, who are those guys? If you look at the teams that we've run the ball the best against, and I'm talking about like the elite teams, the Clemsons, the Michigans, the A&Ms, those are big bodies down there. Not the most athletic guys. I mean, they're athletic. They're, 4-star, 5-star athletes, but they're not like Georgia, like thoroughbreds that can just move to the ball, change direction very quickly.
Right.
Where did Arizona State's defensive line land in that matrix? Are they, from what I've read, I didn't really watch too much of the defensive line play, but from what I've read, they were more of the athletic bunch. They're undersized, more athletic bunch. Kind of like Notre Dame. Actually, I watched Notre Dame do it today.
Yeah, a lot of effort. One of the apparently they're like kind of sneaky good at defense. Yeah, sneaky good run defense.
And so that seems to be kind of that blueprint for the defensive line that gives our offensive line struggles. If you think about it, like who does Sark and Kyle Flood, who do they target in recruiting for offensive linemen? They want the big boys, big humans, right? That's the hashtag, is big humans, 350 pounders. Great. Like, like what is the Achilles heel to a big guy is someone that's way quicker than them.
Yep. And gets under their pads.
Maybe that's where
in discussion.
I feel like Texas runs a lot more kind of zone scheme that, inside or outside zone running scheme. I think we have seen some power. But I think Nick Saban was talking about that in one of these shows today about, the difference between, teams that are doing well in the playoff and teams that got beat is like the size of the offensive line. But yeah, if you're running a zone and you got a quick D tackle that's undersized, like, man, he just finesses you and gets in there. And I do feel like Texas is like more of a finesse team. They have the ability to play powerful, but like I do feel they're more finesse, especially with this passing attack. Like I wouldn't say Quinn has a powerful arm. He's got a finesse arm. He's really good. Like he wouldn't be a long drive golfer, but he's like really good around the greens. He can, within 150 yards, he's really good, but he's not out driving anybody. Like that's kind of how I see this Texas offense.
Yeah. Question for y'all: Did Texas look ahead?
No.
Really?
No.
Ben?
I don't think so. I think I have a lot of respect for Arizona State's head coach, and I think Scadaboo is as advertised, and Sam Levitt did a heck of a job extending plays. And I think it maybe just a matchup for Texas, and Texas just played bad, but I don't think they were looking ahead.
Yeah, the way we came out, the way that we came out in the game. I mean, we were up 17-3 at halftime. If we were down 17-3 at halftime, then maybe I could get away with it. But the way we came out, we're dominating. No, I don't think we were looking ahead.
So what about after the first half? Did they then go, we got this in a bag, this is easy?
Well, if you got guys tweeting in the locker room at halftime,
exactly.
Maybe so. Maybe a little bit, maybe of that. Yeah, there was a little bit of overconfidence at that point in time.
Yeah. Because they played great. The defense. The offense was meh at best, right?
Yeah.
But the offense came alive in the second half and, the very end of the second half. And by a prayer and overtime of 4th and 13, which is going to go in Longhorn lore, I'm sure, like a 4th and 5 from Vince kind of thing. It's not a national championship, I understand. But you're going to remember the way that you felt before that play, watching the play, and after the play.
No doubt.
Like that was very impactful. So,
I mean, it'll be top 5 plays you ever remember from Longhorns football, for sure. Yeah. For sure. I want to talk about one other thing on the run game, though. How much against Georgia and how much against Arizona State do we miss a big body back like C.J. Baxter?
Big time. I was thinking the same thing. And I actually went back, and I'm trying to prepare for our preview against Ohio State, but I went and watched Texas versus Kansas State last year to see some Will Howard tape. And CJ Baxter, it's really nice having there was like a 4th down. We ran like a little pitch, and because he's big and powerful, he was able to kind of use some finesse, if you will, to, he has both power and finesse. I definitely think we missed it. And one of the things I was trying to look up, I couldn't find it, is like I feel like I feel like we get hit in the backfield and then get tackled. Scatterboo got hit and would get, another yard or two. And then a couple
Yeah.
times he would break off for more. And you guys mentioned that. Like, again, yeah, to the Bijan Robinson, like I don't know if I've seen a running back that's been able to just stay upright through contact as well as he is.
That
And the words of Pat McAfee, people who have heads shaped like that are meant to play football, right? And that dude, I think he averaged over 100 yards after contact per game. He averaged over 100 yards per game after contact. I think he had
crazy.
about 95 against us.
That,
Again, the dude played out of his mind.
when he ballerinaed off of Vernon Broughton on that fourth down stop that we had, and you watch the slow motion replay of that play, that one, and like, I mean, literally his feet were like a yard behind his upper body, and he was able to maintain his
so much
feet.
lean.
Yeah. He had so much lean and so much power going forward, and then I think he ran into Trey Moore, and then like luckily 17 other Longhorns like landed on top of him to stop him there. But that was so amazing to watch him stay up in that.
Where were Vernon's arms on that tackle? That's all.
Yes.
Where's the SEC guy?
Yeah.
Wrap up.
I thought SEC guy said
holy gully football.
We tackle with our arms and our legs in the SEC. I guess not.
Well, Ben, no, not technically. Texas is the only SEC school left, so we set the standard for SEC schools in college football playoff at this point.
Oh, don't put that on us. Oh, jeez. Let's wait till after we see how we play against Ohio State. All right.
Well, we should, by my calculation, we should have like 16 other or 15 other fans, 15 other universities representing us for the next game or two, right? So we've just increased our fanfare by a lot.
By many millions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. You know nobody wants to cheer for Texas.
Mm-mm.
Nobody in the SEC, which is
love it.
Hilarious.
I love it.
Well, we were all cheering against Georgia, I'm sure. Even like, it's kind of, some of these games, like you don't really want either team to win, but
right,
yeah.
All right, let's talk about penalties real quick. Texas again led they won the penalty battle in a negative way, 10 for 68, and Arizona State had 6 for 50. So we're going to get into controversial calls. Maybe we go ahead and get into that because that's where penalties are. Might as well get into that. Hey, Texas never gets calls. Well, Texas had 10 penalties. Arizona State had 6. So if stats are any guide, Texas got called more times than Arizona State. So maybe if the fix was in, it wasn't in for those 10 penalties. So controversial calls or no calls, we can take them one by one. So,
but before we get into controversial calls, I do want to talk about one thing just on penalties that are not controversial, and that's pre-snap penalties, right? Again, and Justin, maybe this is to your point of us looking ahead because the mental focus was just not there. In the fourth quarter, Cole Hudson comes in. He's usually one of our most reliable. He's our sixth man on the offensive line, right? He's our most reliable run guy. We put him in there because he's a stalwart at that position. He has 2 false starts in there. I believe
Kelvin Banks had 1 and Gooseby had 2.
Gooseby had 2 also in the fourth quarter. Kelvin Banks came at the most inopportune time in his entire career as a Longhorn. 4th and 8 in overtime. You have to convert, and he's going to have a false start at that point in time to make it 4th and 13. And maybe, hindsight's 2020. And so maybe we're glad that we had a 4th and 13 and not a 4th and 8 because we don't know what would happen on that 4th and 8. But Kelvin Banks, false start, game on the line, like that's like, Justin, maybe you're on something there. Maybe we were just not mentally focused in that second half, and we were already thinking about, hey, who's going to win this Oregon-Ohio State game that's going to match up with us next?
Yep. It was just odd, like the defense that came out, and I get it. I know they played a lot more plays in the second half. They didn't play very good complementary ball, but it was like the way that the momentum that they had at the beginning to start the game, and even going into the second at the end of the half, like Texas had the momentum. They had everything that they needed. And you would think they come out and are just like playing gangbusters, and they just didn't. And I don't know if they lost focus or not. That's just, me trying to like put an answer to it. But man, the penalties, and I sent you guys this earlier, like 10 penalties against us. All right, like I guess it is what it is. It seems like our average for these big games these days. But there's a stat that's floating around out there. Texas ranks 103rd in opponent penalties against us, right? So how many penalties are getting called against the team that Texas is playing? Texas is 103rd. So for all you people complaining about how Texas always gets a call and the best teams always get the calls, go look at the stats, all right? If you want to talk about one play here or there, I understand what you're trying to say. I get that. But if you call some of these other calls that are just completely going missed for the first, second, and third quarters, or maybe not in these really crucial moments, maybe those really crucial moments don't ever have to happen because the refs could just do their freaking job the right way. And I'm not here to complain about the refs, okay? It's not the refs' fault. I understand. Maybe there's human nature or bias in there where this team's kind of an underdog. Let's throw a couple more penalties their way. And I understand if people want to hate on Texas, they're the Cowboys or the Yankees. I get it. Like, I understand why people want to hate on them. But to act like Texas gets every play or every penalty thrown their way because you can cherry pick a couple that fit your narrative, screw you, man.
Yeah.
All right? You can go look. Game after game, you can look and see that Texas clearly does not get penalties called in their favor more often than not.
That's right,
Well,
haters. Facts don't care about your feelings.
All right, I have two thoughts here. Is Texas the Yankees of college football?
Yes.
And then who are the Dodgers? Is that Ohio State?
Yeah, you could name another big name. Yeah.
Well, like, I'm thinking Ohio State has the biggest payroll, and it's like the Dodgers. They're just buying.
It could be the Dodgers. Yeah.
They're buying players. Like, they get all the transfers from other. Actually, that good stat. Like, their defense is pretty much all like born and bred Ohio State recruits, except for Caleb Downs and one other guy.
Caleb Downs. Yeah.
But yeah, Will Howard on offense coming from Kansas State.
Right.
They probably didn't pay much for him, but the highest billed roster. That's the point. Like, that's like the Dodgers. They just whatever it costs, $300 million, 10 years, come on over. My other thought is, like, as long as sports have been around, there have been questionable calls and controversy that may or may not impact the game. Whether it's a catch by, who was the guy for like the no catch for the Cowboys versus the Packers in the playoff game
Des Bryant
a while back. Okay,
so
as long as they're officials, human officials, there's going to be mistakes and calls people disagree with, and so we'll talk about some of them during this game specifically. I'm going to try to go in order if I can on these calls. I can't remember exactly when they happened.
The first one is the Isaiah Bond.
Okay, the first one is the Quinn, why are you throwing in double coverage? Corner makes a good play and steps in front of Bond, but the safety comes in and hits Bond. Like, if you want to compare targeting calls, that was much more of a targeting call than the next one we're going to talk about on Michael Taff later in the game. So we had the no call on Isaiah Bond. That was a turnover, and I'm pretty sure when that happens, they reverse the interception.
Right.
So it would have been no pick from Quinn, and we were up 24-8 at that time.
No, I think we were up 24-16 at that time.
24-16.
Yeah.
Man, questionable play call in general.
Yeah. Very questionable.
Play call didn't hated the throw. Bond was open. He's got to put less air into that and get it to him, and he actually has a real chance of making that play. But I get what you're saying.
That's been a problem all year, right?
On those deep balls like that.
He's a finesse thrower.
Yeah. I will say this in regard to how I say Texas, doesn't get a lot of calls. I will say this, the Isaiah Bond one, I was okay not getting called. I did think it was a pretty ferocious hit, but I do think the guy hit him in the shoulder first. Like, there was one angle where it doesn't look like he clearly hits his head. Like, he kind of goes shoulder and then head. So I think it's a pretty vicious hit. I'm okay with the no call personally, but I get it.
I think if you're comparing the two, that one looks much worse than the other one that also did not get called, which is, let's just talk about this one real quick, and then we'll go to the other penalties. But the no call on the last drive in regulation, for Arizona State. It's 3rd and 15, 10-yard pass to the receiver, Michael Taff. Hits him in the head. Defenseless receiver. I think that's kind of the rule. Like, it wasn't egregious. He didn't lower the crown of the helmet. He didn't leave his feet, try to spear tackle. That's if you do that, I think they definitely call it.
Right.
Like, in real time, it didn't look like that big of a hit. Their
Look,
coach,
a form tackle. He wrapped him up.
Yeah. So that's the one that everyone online and on television are talking about. That if that gets called targeting, which it does appear by some of the rules that it could have been. Maybe Arizona State kicks a field goal and wins the game in regulation. What's your take?
Part of me thinks that reason they did a no call on that was because they kind of set the precedent for the no call on the Isaiah Bond hit. I mean, they were kind of similar. I mean, they were kind of
like
similar.
to see consistent. I think you like to see consistency, which we've seen, and you don't want the referees to make a call that ends the game.
Right.
I'd rather them hold a whistle, unless it's defensive pass interference like that. It affects the play. Like the tackle didn't affect the play, right?
No.
And Brett, what you talked about, where that is not the hit they're trying.
That's not the intent. That's not the intent of this, right? Like when they put these rules in place a few years ago, the intent was to prevent people from getting hurt, from people with malicious intent trying to knock other people unconscious. The Brian Dawkins of the NFL, who are literally just leading with the crown of the helmet on their shoulder, trying to put Algie Crumpler into a wheelchair. Like, that's what they're trying to eliminate. And
that was little Algie.
Yeah. Sorry, Algie, if you're listening, and hope you're not in a wheelchair. But that's not the intent of the intent was not to eliminate good play. That was a bang bang play. Michael Taft has to make that tackle in that moment in order to preserve the first down, because it was 1-on-1. That receiver caught it and was 1-on-1 with him. If he misses it, it's a clear wrap up. He hits him with his face mask in the other guy's face mask. Right. It was just solid fundamental football. It's what you would teach your kid when you're first teaching them how to play peewee football.
Right.
Like, keep your head up, wrap up, take them to the ground. And he did all three of those things. And I mean, that just it just wasn't what it was for.
He's trying to separate man from ball, right? That's job number one. If he can separate man from ball, do it, right? So you can tell his arms are going to try and hit the ball, like, and wrap him up all in one play, right? Or he's trying to tackle the guy. But you can also look at reputation. Taft doesn't play like that. And I think that is what benefits him, especially Taft and even Makuba. Like, these guys aren't out there launching themselves every week. So
I
think that is helpful for them as well. But I'm glad the refs let them play. If those had been called, I would have understood, but I would have not appreciated them, because I just don't think that's the intent behind that rule.
It's not the intent.
I agree. I totally thought they were going to call it, though. And
the announcers made you think that. They were like, "Oh, it's definitely."
I had to turn. Man, I had to turn off
media.
Tessitore. Tessitore and Palmer were driving me crazy. I had to mute it. I went to the other channel, so I have Fubo now on a trial since YouTube TV increased their prices, and Fubo's more expensive, believe it or not. So might be switching back, but
unless they want to sponsor us.
I had to change to the Sky View, and they actually had
Craig Way.
Craig Way, yeah, they had Craig Way on the Sky View, and I switched to that for a bit, but then I couldn't stand the camera angles, so I switched back. But man, Tessitore, like he's on kind of my list of worst announcers. I can't stand Reese Davis either.
I was waiting for him to say Texas is back to the national semifinals.
I'm letting a naysayer know I don't like Reese Davis.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, okay. So we talked about the targeting, no calls. They were consistent with it, whether you like it or not. You call it on the Isaiah Bond hit. Texas does not get a turnover. They likely score a touchdown, and Arizona State doesn't tie the game. They don't call it late on Texas. Maybe Arizona State kicks a field goal and wins it. Whatever the case, they were consistent with it. They weren't egregious hits, either one of them. So that's just is what it is. One other one that's not being talked about a whole bunch is one of the Scatterboo touchdowns.
I'll
And
tell you exactly when it was.
Brett,
Because I'm
break us
so
down.
fired up about this. I'm so furious about this one. And that nobody, not Tessitore, Jesse Palmer, nobody even talked about it. But it was in the first overtime. Arizona State's, they have the ball first, right? So they have to go score. And I don't remember what down it was, but it's, short field for them. Scatterboo gets it. He's running to the left. He gets completely stopped. And his offense, his left guard or left tackle, one of them grabs him around the waist and zuplexes him into the end zone. Clearly a violation of the assisting the ball carrier rule. I mean, it was so egregious. Like, I'm looking at every single ref. Every ref had a clear view of it. The Joe Tessitore, he's applauding this lineman for doing that without even talking about how it's a violation of rules. You can push, but you cannot pull. And there was no debating whether it was a push or pull. It was a complete zuplex. He lifted him over himself to throw him into the end zone. I was absolutely fuming at this point in time, screaming at the TV like somebody has to throw a flag here. This is, I mean, it's just absolutely, you want to talk about egregious. This was egregious. Oh man, I was so fired up about that and then of course, that puts them in the lead for this game. And it just, at that point in time, it's just like, it felt like the writing was on the wall that Texas was intended to lose this game. That call went against us. Gosh, I'm glad it didn't work out that way, but it was awful. It was awful.
You're right. I completely understand. I noticed it, but it certainly didn't, I guess, click for me like it did for you. Seeing it, I'm like, yeah, you're not supposed to do that, but it seems like it happens. But Tess was probably too far up Scadaboo's rear end to see it, if I had to guess.
All right.
Just kidding.
So you want to know why? The reason I knew about it or was kind of thinking about it was, do you remember I think it was the Clemson game where Cam Williams tried to pick up Travion Wisner and they both got hurt on that play? You remember that?
Yeah.
Well, the announcers in that game, they said that you can't do that. That could have been a penalty on Texas. And Texas is lucky. Right. Not only did they got two guys injured, they could have had a penalty on top of that. And I was just like, oh, mental note. I didn't realize you couldn't do that. And so, of course, as soon as I see a blatant version of that, I'm like, oh, that's an obvious penalty.
Yeah. Yep. And that one, especially to carry him from the 1 yard line over your own body and then put him into the end zone.
Yeah.
That's slightly different, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a big, huddle of people and you're all kind of moving,
yeah,
it's like, all right, like, what are you going to do? That's kind of tough. But it was just him and Scadaboo. That was it.
That was
and
it.
You can even see our Texas players like, wait, we just had him right here. Like, he was here. And then he got, lifted into the heavens. Yeah, that was wild.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only way they say that wasn't illegal is if the running back was, momentum was carrying him in the end zone. But it looked to me like he grabs him and, drags him in. Yeah. So that they could have called that as well. So again, that's the first touchdown overtime. And then going back to one of the 2-point conversions, illegal man downfield this was a scramble play. Levitt was scrambling all over the place. He went, I think, to the left, back to the right. They ended up calling a holding penalty on one of the Texas corners,
Manny Muhammad.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, which I thought was kind of a weak call.
I did too.
But yeah, you had one of the offensive linemen was in the end zone.
Yep.
Not too far away from where the holding penalty was, and so I don't know what is it 2 yards is like the grace period for being downfield. So if you're in the end zone, I think 2-point conversions are from the 3.
Correct.
So you are illegally downfield. Didn't call that. Yet they found the holding, which was a weak call to me, based on kind of what we see from Texas playing versus Georgia and all these other games we've been playing all year. Like, those are the calls you're going to make. But I guess you're right. To Justin's point, different officiating crews kind of call different things, especially with the DBs and wide receivers.
Yeah. How do you like that? Speaking of that, I know we talked about it off air. Big Ten ref crew, 0 holding calls.
I did notice
I'm not saying that I want to see a bunch of holding calls, but no holding calls. I mean, except for the defensive holding, which you just mentioned. No holding on the line of scrimmage is shocking. I can't believe not one got called, and I guarantee we could go back and pick it apart and find them. But I don't want to do that. I don't like that kind of game or talk. But that's just crazy to me. So it seems as though, and I think this is a relative trend out there, that not a lot of holding is called in the Big Ten, and in the SEC. I think we've seen it. Not a lot of defensive pass interference gets called, right? Unless it's egregious. They just kind of let them hand fight and let them out.
And they kind of let that happen, I guess. On to the next one is the big play by Scatterboo. Does he push off against Taff? And then I loved how Taff ripped his helmet off to make the tackle. I mean, talk about like a bit of a mismatch. You got a heavy. I don't know how much Scatterboo weighs, but you probably have
I'd say 215, but I think he's more like 225. He's a load.
Okay, I think he's got a 30-pound weight advantage, and it's all in the legs, thunder thighs. But I mean, hey, it was a great catch, and I thought that was kind of like the momentum play for Arizona State. But I don't know. To me, I thought it was a good no call. I thought they were both kind of pushing, but I think Justin, you think that was offensive pass interference?
They called defensive pass interference.
They called DPI though, which
is
okay.
I'm like,
no, you can't call DPI. Like you either no call that because Scatterboo runs back towards him and then gives him one of these, and that's when Taft does that and then has to play catch up to him. Yeah. So I don't know. I would prefer no call, let him play. But if you're gonna throw the flag, that's not defensive pass interference. Come on, man.
It didn't matter, I guess. The DPI didn't really matter. Right. But yeah, I think we're saying you could have called OPI, but man, I love
which
the
would
face.
have null and voided the whole catch.
I kind of like the. I don't encourage face masks, but I kind of like that one. Like, man, like I'm just grabbing you by whatever I can get. I don't care if it's your face mask or not. Like he's not trying to hurt him, but he's just
he's just trying to get him down.
Yeah.
Any way you can.
Grab what you can. Giving up a big play is maybe we still have a chance to stop him. So it was worth it.
Yeah. I know we kind of touched on some of it. We talked about run game. Well, that's the last one we want to talk about in regards to controversial calls, right?
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about more run game, or kind of where do you want to go next?
Let's talk about special teams.
Muhammad. Okay. I want to talk about Manny Muhammad, but we can do it later.
We'll get back to him. Okay. Special teams. Well, bad start on Texas for special teams. Running into the kicker extends the first drive for Arizona State. Run into the punter. So obviously it probably could have blocked it. I don't know why we didn't block it. Like we were on track to have our best special teams game of the year. Should have been an easy blocked punt. And then, so we'll talk. We'll kind of mix in good and bad real quick. Next special teams opportunity, punt return for a touchdown. Excellent. We block a field goal. I think early on there in the first half. I think it was right at the end of the first half. Tip field goal gets missed by Arizona State. That was good. I know we made a field goal. How far was the field goal? We're not really counting that as a 22-yard field goal. If you don't make that, like you need to go play for UTSA or something.
Right.
But yeah. So we're not counting that as a win, but Texas did make a 22-yard field goal. So we've got two positive plays on special teams. Okay, we talked about running into the kicker earlier, the extending the drives. Arizona State, second week in a row, there's been a fake punt, or second game within, I guess, the last 3 games for Texas then, that we've given up a fake punt for a big play. And so there was a fake pass for a first down, and then 2 missed field goals by Burt Auburn, both which could have potentially won the game. And
one of them for sure would have won the game.
One of them for sure would have won the game. Yeah, Sark gives them a big pep talk. They're laughing and smiling. There's 3 seconds left. I thought Arizona State was going to call a timeout. I think they had one timeout
I did
left.
too.
I did too.
I thought they were going to try to ice them. They didn't do it. Looked like they got close to blocking it. They had a guy get inside, and I don't know if that had any effect on the kick, but maybe. So the first one he missed was a 48-yarder, and it was just wide right, never came back. He's kind of been a hooker all year. And then a 38-yard field goal missed. So I don't know what his deal is. He has not been very good lately. They were showing some stats. He has pretty good stats overall, but it seems like he's not clutch.
Well, I blame Justin for this. I blame Justin 100% for this because I think it was on the last podcast. Was it the last podcast? Yeah, so what did Justin do? Justin comes on here and he goes, guys, Bert Auburn's really been a really clutch kicker for us. And he's 5 for 5 in all game tying and taking the lead opportunities with field goals. So it is good to know that he's on our team for those clutch moments. I'm just like, oh yeah, that is good. Until what happens? Like hey, Justin, you're never allowed to talk about special teams on this ever again. Ever again. All you're allowed to do is spread hate. You're allowed to spread hate on this podcast, and that's it.
Yeah. So Bert Auburn is the lead of some terrorist organization out there, and he's only here to terrorize freaking UT fans, man. I mean, I don't know what it is with him, man. I'm ready for Will Stone. He's been practicing field goals at practice, apparently. I hate to take him out. He was so good. He shot 80% in his first year, 83% in his second season. He's at 68. He's probably less than 68% now after those 3 kicks.
64.
There you go. Man, that's not even passing. That's horrible. I can't do it, man. When he kicks, literally, I put my hands up like this now. I'm not watching. Even on the extra points, are you totally comfortable? You know what I mean?
He's 100% on extra points, I think. So
Ben said it, not me. Mark the tape.
I shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah, look, that was the moment.
Special teams. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say when he missed that field goal to win the game, when Quinn played out of his mind to give him not 1 but 2 chances to put us in the lead at the very end, and he missed that one. That's when that's the first time I felt like, okay, the season's over, because the announcers dropped a stat that in 1-score games, Sark is 8-13 for the Longhorns, whereas what's their coach's name? Dillingham or something like that.
Dillingham, yeah, like 6-0 or something.
Yeah, he was like 6-0, and I was like, oh, that's it. I mean, this has to be a 1-score game now. It's like we're gonna lose this. This is gonna be our fate.
Yep. Yeah, the overall special teams leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth. The plays that went our way, you feel really good about. The block punt, the missed block punt that turned into a penalty was unfortunate. I think the guy was so surprised that it was McDonald, right? I think he was so surprised that he got there.
Who
Blackwell. Was it? Oh, I think he was so surprised that he got there. He was almost like, I don't know what to do, because he could have just tried to tackle the punter. Like he almost got there before the punter even had a chance to kick the ball. Yeah. And I wonder if he slowed up and was just like, oh, and didn't know kind of how to act once he got there. I mean, hell, you just watched the Notre Dame and Georgia game. The dude came around the edge and did the exact same thing twice in a row, ran into the kicker both times. Almost exact same thing that Blackwell did.
This is you just got to be a mental mistake, because even in high school football, okay, and I'm not saying I was anything, but man, we practice. You don't go to the kicker, you go to where his foot's going to be.
Right.
And that's where you go to try to block.
Right.
So it's you just get happy. I think you just get excited that you're there. It's like, hey, nobody touched me. And then you forget that fundamental piece where, hey, I'm not going to the kicker. I'm going to where the ball's going to be and try to block that.
He's going to be. So he got there and was like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm this close. And
so there's no doubt in my mind the coaches coach that. I think it's just you get excited.
Just mentally. Yeah. But so the plays that went Texas' way in special teams were great. We finally saw a touchdown, a fantastic block kick. Like, hell yeah. The ones that didn't go your way, I can't believe Texas won the game. Time of possession, penalties, Turnovers were even. Granted, we stopped them on some fourth down, so you could count those as us winning the turnover battle technically, right? And special teams. If you take all that and add it up, not only time of possession but yardage, would we get outgained by 150 yards or something?
Yes.
No way Texas should have won that game. No way. I don't know how they did it, man. I mean, it's still. I mean, that was a Houdini
It's because we
act
have a knight in shining armor in Quinn Ewers.
Quinn, baby. Oh
Quinn.
man.
All right,
Let's
let's
go.
talk. Let's talk about Quinn. And I'm gonna say it. I called for an Arch series, and Justin talked me into a play or two. But yeah, the running game had nothing going. I just wanted to bring in another element to see if we could juice up the run game.
Yeah.
And I'm happy Sark sticks with his guy. Quinn is so much poise. I think Sark has a lot of poise, and I think they talked about that at the end of the game, or I heard it somewhere. But what poise to be going through this game, and you throw an interception, a bad throw. We talk about the targeting call doesn't get called. Arizona State comes back and ties the game, and then 2 missed field goals, like Brett said. You get your team in position to make a field goal to go up in the fourth quarter, 1 to win it as a walk-off, misses it. Arizona State gets that first. They get that first possession in OT, score,
Yes.
and then you know what you have to do. And to get into a 4th and 13 and to throw that dime to Matthew Golden. Whew.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
He was throwing dimes all over the place. I mean, in those drives, like I would have remembered the game had Bert Auburn done his job. I would have remembered the game for Quinn just driving down the field 2 more times and throwing those back shoulder fades to Matthew Golden on the sideline. They're just beautiful. And that well-timed pass to Ryan Wingo that set up the potential game-winning field goal. Like he was on. He threw that interception, and yeah, Ben, you're right. Sark said it after the game. He said Quinn's not a guy that gets super high or super low. He's very even-keeled. He's very composed. And he can get back out there and he can shake off an interception as good as any quarterback that he's ever coached. And that really showed, because when he threw that interception, I was furious. I was fuming. I did not have any composure. I'm sure most fans didn't have any composure. But Quinn did, because what he did is he dialed up 2 potential game-winning drives in a row. He finishes the game 11 for 14 with 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. He's throwing darts. He was literally throwing darts and put the team on his shoulders. Justin, Ben, one of y'all said we ran the ball 1 time in overtime. So that means it was Quinn's game to win or lose. And
hands down.
To me, he cemented his legacy. No matter how you feel about Quinn, he cemented his legacy in winning that game, putting the team on his shoulders and winning that game. Him and Matthew Golden and Gunnar Helm. I mean, it was an unbelievable showing. So clutch. His last 3 passes were all in the end zone. Touchdown, 2-point conversion. Quinn.
The 2-point conversion pass as well was money. Like you couldn't. I don't think you can place that ball in a better spot. And then the second overtime, the TV wasn't even ready when they were on commercial.
It wasn't ready.
Yeah, they would do that constantly all night long.
Yeah,
they were missing the beginning of plays, man. Come on, I know you got to run your ads, but dude, give me a break, man. To kind of throw some stats out there. I mean, obviously Quinn threw for over 300 and 3 touchdowns, right? On some of those, how we've talked about, the way that he can kind of feather the ball past that linebacker layer, not necessarily with the 40-yard bombs, but he's really good between the 10 to 15 down the field. Here you go. 9 of 16 on throws over 10 yards for 228 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the 1 pick. That was the difference in the game. 228 yards came on 9 completions. Right?
Yeah.
And he had only another 11 completions for the other 100 yards, right? Yeah. That is his sweet spot. Whether it's receivers or tight ends, I guess technically a running back could run a route like that, but they don't typically do that with them. That's his honey hole. And early prediction, I'm here to tell you, I think you're about to see a lot of funneling to those 2 guys. Those are the guys that make constant plays for us year round. And you're going to get some DeAndre Moore, and you're going to get some Wingo in there as well, but it's going to be Helm and Golden. And if we're only going as far as Quinn and those 2 dudes take us, period, end of story. I mean, the defense is the defense. I'm talking about offense specifically.
Yeah.
that is the key cog to this team. It's not the run game. I want to say the run game is going to do it, and maybe we do the ebb and flow, whatever. Quinn played lights out. You Quinn haters need to stop. We talked about it previously. Why is all this unnecessary pressure on Quinn before the Clemson game? And he went and he played okay, right? But the run game was there. Right now, when everybody was hating on him, saying, oh, he's got a $6 million NIL deal, he's going to go to one of these other schools or whatever, he just goes out there and just calmly balls out. All right? The dude's legit. I'm not saying he's perfect, okay? But if we can get Quinn to play that way and Sark to call those kind of plays more consistently, I haven't seen the team stop him. Georgia didn't stop him. Threw almost 400 yards against Georgia. Like, that's the Quinn that you want to see. Not the crazy gimmicky spin around screenplay, although it was a good play. It worked this week. I know we want to get rid of it, but it worked, right? But, dude,
I hate that.
Give him those seam routes.
Oh, my gosh.
Give him those seam routes. Don't throw balloon balls. Quinn has the chance to carry this team, and I don't know if there's anybody else who can say that in the entire offense. It's got to be Quinn. It's not a running game thing.
Yeah. He showed up when you needed him most. And I loved what he said at the end. And they're saying, how much did, that final series against Washington last year in the college football playoff where he had 4 throws into the end zone? And the reporter asked him, he said, how much did that prepare you for this moment? And he said, there's no substitute like experience. He's like, so when our backs were against the wall and we had 4th and 13, and I'm looking out there, he adjusts the play because he can tell they're bringing a zero blitz, which means it's just man-to-man coverage. So he brings in Gunnar Helm for an additional blocker, right? They bring the house. Our offensive line and Gunnar Helm and our running back, they block perfectly. It's a 2-man route. I don't know who was running the other route. I think it was maybe Wingo. I think it was Wingo.
I think it was the 3-man route because they had a center safety there. They had a single high.
Well, on the right side there was 2 men.
They had 2.
There was Ryan Wingo and Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden fakes the flag route or the corner route and then goes back right up the seam. And I mean, Quinn stands up there as poised as ever, throws that dime. How about him stepping up in the pocket for the Gunnar Helm touchdown?
Gunnar Helm,
that was sick.
That was like, again, we came back,
and you're like, touchdown! What happened?
I was so excited, but I didn't see what happened. I'd love to see that.
In the post game, they actually talked about the play in the first over, the 4th and 13 play. Why he goes and checks that is because they anticipated seeing that particular blitz, and this was the play call that they had ready for that. So he went up there, made the adjustment, and said, "Hey, this is the new," and that's when you see Majors turn around and they adjust their blocking, and then literally, that was a perfect perfect like half circle for him to throw from, and that's why Golden did the post kind of flag post again, and because that safety took one step up, and when he did that, the hips were already wrong, and then Quinn was like, "Yeah, this is game."
It was such a sick route. It was such a. He put that fantastic corner on skates. I mean, it was not even close.
And the safety.
Yeah.
It was great.
That pre-snap play, that's like every third down against Georgia, both games. It's like they got 7 guys at the line of scrimmage. It could be an all-out blitz, or they're dropping, 3, and you don't know which 3. Like, I think playing against Georgia and seeing that so many times, because that's like we had no answer for it in the past. But to be able to get up there with 15 seconds on the play clock and be able to check, like I felt like a lot of times in the first matchup against Georgia, we would get up there and the play clock is at 5, and you got to hurry up and snap the ball, and you don't have time to see who's coming.
Yep. So
to get to the line of scrimmage with time to see how the defense is aligned, it was big. Yep. If the play gets in late, you don't have time to do that. You're caught off guard. And you look like, Levitt on his last throw of the game. So, which, I wonder if he still thinks he's the better quarterback. No, he said that. He's a better scrambling quarterback. Like, I'll give him that.
Yeah. Throwing of the ball, I think Quinn still got him. Levitt's going to be good, though. He's a redshirt freshman. Like, mad props. On that throw that went to Golden, there were plenty of them, but the one for the touchdown on 4th and 13, in the air, like you see the route opening up, and you're like, oh, he's got him. The same way you saw DeAndre Moore's open up on the wheel route. DeAndre Moore on the wheel route in the second play of the game for us. You saw it, and you were like, touchdown. Like you start getting excited because you could see it coming. But while the ball was in the air going to Golden, I was just like, oh my God, please catch it. Like that was the only. I was like, the throw is going to be there because he kind of had to like catch it and fall a little bit. Like it wasn't the cleanest catch, and I'm just like, dude, just catch it and
secure catch.
Dude, Golden did what he's been doing all season long, and I'm telling you, it's him and Helm sprinkling your Moore and Wingo. That is just key to success in the next 2 games.
So much confidence in both those throws. Both those throws were before the receiver made their cut.
Hey, Jonte Cook said this week he doesn't think Quinn's worth $6 million.
I saw
that.
Hey, by the way, where do you guys think this $6 million buyer is coming from?
I've got 2 teams in mind.
I heard Penn State.
No, Drew Aller's going back.
Is he?
Yeah. Well, he said he is. He already said he was. I would assume.
Well, maybe he is. I don't know. That's what I heard. It's all rumors.
I heard Michigan State, but
really?
That would be weird because Michigan State has a young guy they like, I know, who transferred from.
I thought it would be Oregon Ohio State because Will Howard's
State.
He's a senior.
Yep.
Oregon, two programs with senior quarterbacks
and a lot of money.
You know, like Ohio State's looking for someone that can beat Michigan. So,
how crazy would that be if he went back to Ohio State? Like now, especially since we're playing him now.
Why we play him next year?
Week 1 next year. How crazy would that be?
I mean, if anybody has $6 million to do it, it's the LA Dodgers of college football.
It's got to be one of those 2 teams. I could see Miami as well. I mean, Miami just getting rid of Cam Ward.
You don't want to go play for Mario Cristobal after playing for Sarkisian.
I think it has to be a contender for him. I mean, maybe $6 million is $6 million, and you don't really care, but you got to think it's a contender. Miami's not a contender. Nobody thinks that team can play is ever going to build a defense that can be a contender.
Right. Yeah, I could see it being like the 2 that came to mind that I thought made the most sense were Oregon and Ohio State. We can go on a tangent on this after the season.
He could ball out. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but he could ball out and make himself a lot of money, right?
Yeah. I would be okay with seeing him in college. I'd hate to see him not as a Longhorn, but I think he could use one more year of developing.
I would not be
really good.
I would not be okay with
healthy tape out there.
No,
it'd be so weird for him to. It'd be like, it's kind of like Jalen Hurts going to OU. It's like he's not a Sooner to me. He's a
Alabama. That's another one.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a really good one. Or Ole Miss.
Well, Kalen DeBoer's seen him play firsthand, and DeBoer is really good with pocket quarterbacks.
USC.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be out of conference because he's going to miss his opportunity to get in the portal early enough to enroll at an SEC school to be eligible for next year. I don't know when this portal window closes. I think it's pretty soon, though.
I think it is pretty soon. It's probably right before the championship game, which is stupid.
And this is the one you have to be in order for SEC to play in the SEC. If you're in the SEC to play in the SEC, you have to.
You can't do it in the spring.
Can't do it in the spring.
To go in conference, you're right. To go in conference, you're right.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, man, look, for as much hesitation as we had with Quinn at some points this year when he was hurt, I feel like, hurt between the oblique and the ankle. I feel like, man, he's finally, he's not mobile, right? He's not mobile.
What are you talking about? He had a rushing touchdown. He's super mobile.
Barely. I couldn't get my eyes off the anchor he was pulling behind him. But he's mobile enough. He's got okay pocket awareness sometimes. Sometimes it's horrendous, mainly off like a corner blitz or something.
Yeah.
But he knows when he needs to step up, and he knows when he's just like, you know what, let's eat it. Because have y'all watched Joe Burrow at all this year or over the past couple of years with the Bengals?
No.
Joe Burrow is like, I don't care if I take an 8-yard sack, I'll just throw it for 18 yards. There's just a mentality that he has of I don't care, we can still get a first down. I've got fantastic receivers. I can make the play, whatever it is. And now he's not Joe Burrow. but it's like he kind of has that kind of gunslinger mentality sometimes of like, man, who cares about 5 yards? I'd rather do 5 yards than throw a pick or try to run forward and hurt myself, right? He's like, dude, it's 5 yards. Who cares? I'm better at the 15-yard throws than I am the 7-yard throws. You know what I mean? It's almost like that's his mentality. I'm trying to put myself in his shoes sometimes of why he makes some of the throws he makes, and he makes a lot of decisions I see Joe Burrow make. So again, he's not the same level, but I'm talking about the decision making there. Really kind of looks the same to me, where he just goes, okay, fine, we'll just throw it 25 yards instead of 20 yards, whatever.
All right, what else we want to talk about? Close out this second round playoff game recap for Texas. Hey, Bert Auburn also said he's coming back to Texas next year. So
I did see that.
If there's a scholarship
there. Hold on. He said that before the game.
Yeah, we don't know about that. Okay, so how about this on defense? Again, we've gone on about how they played a lot of plays and about how they just looked tired at the end of it, and we've been relying on them game after game the whole year. We're going into game 15 now, right? That's when you start seeing the rookie wall in the NFL, right? Is that like week 14, 15 kind of thing? Luckily, they're getting 8, 9, 10 days or whatever it is between games, so it's kind of like a mini bye week, right? Are we starting to see some of that talented depth we have? And every team here, then the Final Four, they've all got talented depth. Are we starting to see who, like that real attrition? Like, hey, we did lose a couple guys in our defensive line, right? Is that defense kind of showing a little bit of wear and tear? I'm curious. I ask you guys, I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that. I mean, I still think we're making some pretty good splash plays. Chasing around Sam Levitt was just, I mean, holy crap. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Like, not for, a full game. So luckily, Will Howard is not that guy. Will Howard's mobile, but he's not nearly as quick as Sam Levitt. And Will Howard is more to just go, I'll just go get 2-3 yards here, as opposed to keep trying to run and make a Johnny Manziel miraculous play.
Right.
Second, can Manny Muhammad not see the ball in the air?
Does he need not when Scatabo throws it?
What was it? He even looked in the sky like he was like blaming the sun.
And I thought he was blaming his safety for not being on the inside, which that ball's in the air for so long. Like, dude,
just go hit him.
Come on,
knock it down.
I think you're right.
But it's not only that. It's like even when the ball sometimes when it's just one-on-one and he knows it's coming, like sometimes it just kind of like, it kind of looks like a little uncoordinated, kind of throws his hands up. Like, I know we didn't call his name a lot this year because they really just didn't throw to him, So for Jahdae Barron to get, what he got, defensive player of the game, right? And side note, did y'all see Scatabo got offensive player of the game?
Yeah.
Or MVP?
All right. He deserved it, man.
Deserved it. First time in Peach Bowl history that somebody from the losing team got one of the MVPs, by the way.
That's crazy.
But man, that Manny Muhammad, I think you're about to see some Gavin Holmes. If we're about to go against Jeremiah Smith, because you can't just put one guy on him the whole time. You're going to have to double team him. You'll have some single shots with him. Don't get me wrong.
All right.
But
we're getting ahead. Man. But I think we should put Barron on.
I just want to talk about Manny Muhammad because I do want to sing some of his praises. So he made the lack of play on the Scatabo touchdown pass, but then he also had a really nice pass breakup later in the game in the end zone where he ripped the ball out of the receiver's hands as it was coming down.
And then wasn't he the one that dove and tipped that one as well?
He was the one that dove and tipped it later on that too. So that was both him. Those were some awesome plays. Yeah. But the one where he ripped it, I thought he intercepted it. I mean, he ripped it from, which one I'm talking about, on the right side.
Oh, yeah.
The end zone.
Yep.
He ripped it away and I thought he cradled it. I mean, obviously hit the ground. Yeah. So it was incomplete. That was an awesome pass breakup. And then the Superman pass breakup that he had in the end zone. I think that was in the first overtime or maybe the second overtime. But that was an incredible play too. So DBU showed up. I mean, Makuba ending the game the way he did. Jahdae Barron leading the team in tackles. Michael Taft played okay. I mean, he had a lot of tackles. The defensive backs were there. To your first question about the young wall, the freshman wall or whatever you called it.
Or rookie wall, whatever.
Rookie wall. I mean, Sarkisian addressed this at the beginning of the season with quality depth, right? That's why he went and got the defensive lineman. The poorly he did, not because we need them all for every single down. And and why we have so many offensive linemen. It's like you're playing upwards of 4 additional games this year than compared to other years. You're going to have attrition. You're from the portal. You're going to have injuries, which we've had. You're going to have games like this where teams are just trying to grind you down, and you need quality depth like Sydir Mitchell. How nice would it be to have Sydir Mitchell playing, in a backup nose tackle position right now? I know he had a bad attitude, and that's why he's no longer with the team, but it'd be nice to have somebody like that to be able to play. So, yeah, I definitely see that. I could see that being a big factor in the next 2 games. We're lucky that we haven't had any critical injuries during these first couple of playoff games.
Yeah.
I think time of possession is a big impact. You can't lose the time of possession by 15 minutes again.
Complimentary ball. Got to be there. Could not agree more. Well, I will say kind of how you said the DBs showed up. They did. Unfortunately, our defensive backs had almost 30 tackles between our top 3 tacklers were DBs, and they combined for almost 30 tackles. Barron, Taff, and Makuba, 11, 10, and 8.
That's too many.
That ain't telling you.
That's too many.
If that doesn't tell you. Yep. No, that tells you exactly how that game went.
Yeah.
Again, man. I can't believe Texas won.
I said
all these things we've talked about.
I think I said my players of the game, I can't remember now, but I think I said my players of the game on the defensive side needed to be Leonga Lafau and Anthony Hill, because they're going to have to tackle this guy and have a lot of tackles, lead the team in tackles. They didn't do that.
Yep.
I think Anthony Hill got graded in the 40s for this game. He had some splash plays, but
I think he was like a 49. He was like a 78 on pass defense or
PFF.
Total?
PFF grade for the game.
Oh, maybe I'm not.
Hey, here's a quick stat. Arizona State ran 37 more plays on offense.
That's crazy.
Texas.
That's crazy, man.
Oh,
that's too many.
Losing 101.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
60
we
plays.
tried to lose, for sure. We gave it our best effort, but we're just so good we can't lose.
You said it, not me. All right.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say things like that.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you, that was definitely the most entertaining game of the weekend. Glad Texas was on the top side of it. That's why you'd rather be on top than on bottom, right?
That's right. I thought I was thinking the same thing, actually. And you said tequila as well. I think tequila and on the top.
Tequila.
Ooh, let me tell you what, that tequila hurt on.
Oh,
pre-game tequila.
Is that a good New Year's Eve?
That was rough.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you back.
Me too.
But Texas gave every chance for Arizona State to win that game, and Arizona State freaking played their guts out, man. I mean, hats off to them. I was thoroughly impressed. I think they're going to be Big 12 favorites next year. I don't think that's even a question.
What a
Not having Scadaboo will be a problem for them, but it looks like they've got a pretty good kid, and the transfer portal plus Kyson Brown behind them. Like, I think you'll see them around, much like we talked about. If they can build a wall around Arizona and in the recruiting classes and keep some of those top talent there, they're going to be good in the future. But Texas, I don't know how you did it. You know what? Survive in advance. Doesn't matter if you win by 1, 20, 40, whatever it is. Like, they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, I'll second that. I mean, what an emotional roller coaster of a game for me. I can't imagine how exhausted the players are mentally after going through that firefight. If I would have told either one of you guys that this was going to be the closest game of all 4 of the quarterfinal games, y'all would have slapped me. I mean, there was 13.5-point favorites, the clear, dominant team in the entire quarterfinals. We were supposed to dominate that one. That was supposed to be the most boring game to watch. Turns out it was the most exciting one to watch. Lots of controversy in it. But like you said, Justin, a win's a win. And guess what? We're moving on to the semis, and you don't know what could happen here. Ohio State, They look fantastic, but I imagine Sark's going to have something up his sleeve.
I'm looking forward to previewing that. That's for sure.
I think we would have said maybe, I think any one of these other games we probably would have thought would have been closer.
That's right.
We definitely thought Georgia would have a drop off with the change of quarterback, and certainly did. Oregon, to the bye week, they they looked like they hadn't played football in 21 days, which they hadn't. I don't know if that's the exact timeline, but man, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Maybe it's less than that, but either way, the bye week certainly didn't help any of those teams. But we'll close it out, and I think we'll have a preview and get into more Will Howard, who we've seen before and beaten before. Maybe he has a grudge against Texas like he did against Penn State and other teams. So we'll get into that. But a lot to improve on for this Texas team, and kind of led by their defense as they have been all year. And when you think of Texas, you kind of think, oh, this is a Steve Sarkisian, Quinn Ewers. This is an offensive powerhouse. And, well, not really, unless we're playing Florida. So defense won the game, interception to end it. Hard for them to, not give up points when they're on the field for like 98 plays, 97 plays. 38 minutes. So, but I think they did what they needed to do in crunch time and overtime, second overtime, I guess. But we'll be back in a few days with a preview for the semifinal versus Ohio State. That'll be a big one, and man, they look unstoppable. So, Brad or Justin, why don't you guys give us any last word or close us out? It's been fun.
I'm just going to say thank you, Quinn, one more time.
Yep.
We're still playing because of
Quinn.
him.
Yeah. Quinn, Gunner, Golden, and Makuba. I mean, those are all the helmet stickers I feel like we need to give out. Jade, if we're going to talk about defense as well, right? Like, but those guys, I mean, it took everything they had. I mean, you saw Scadaboo throwing up on the field or off the field, I guess, kind of literally exhausting himself. I think a lot of that was happening on the Texas sideline as well. I mean,
I also wonder what he was doing the night before. New Year's Eve. He doesn't look like the kind of guy that likes to just stay in the hotel room. Play
it sounds
Xbox.
like they said he was drinking water too quick.
That's what
and
he
he's
said.
Just like,
yeah,
okay,
but
yeah,
was he drinking water the night before?
Well, no accusations here. Great job, Texas. I mean, honestly, great game, ASU. Again, thank you for entertaining us, and way to get out with the win.
All right, guys, hook 'em.
Catch you next time.